Welcome to the Oh Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
Happy holidays to you, Dan.
Holiday
Oh, a
Fest.
little Snoopy action. That's
Little Snoopy.
perfect.
Yeah. This episode dates us back to our very first episode, which was you and I breaking down, at that time, anyways, our top 5 films. May 29th, 2020. I thought it might be fun as we're moving into the holiday season here is to do our top 5 holiday films. So that's what we're going to do today. And I got to tell you, I think this was harder than the top 5 films.
I do too, because we had fewer films to choose from, and I easily could have given you a top 10.
Well, what do you mean fewer films to choose from? There's an endless array of holiday films
Well,
out there.
holiday, we're looking at holiday films. There's a lot of films that wouldn't make it because they have no connection to the holiday for me, although it's a slippery slope sometimes. As we found out when we were on another show when we were asked about Die Hard,
Yeah.
and we both had different sides of that argument.
You talking about the Rexer show?
Yes.
Yeah, shout out to Rexer because I was thinking about him. You remember we talked about 8-Bit Christmas on the Rexer show,
That's right.
and I really enjoyed that film. It was with a Doogie Howser. Doesn't he have a 3 name? What's the actor's name? That's terrible. I can't remember, but
I can't remember.
it'll come to us as we get through. Phyllis Seymour Johnson. I don't know, but that was one of the ones that kind of went through my memory banks, and I was like, oh yeah, we talked about it in the Rexer show. So now, Mike, your list at that time of just your top 5 films was Roxanne, The Killing, Double Indemnity, Godfather, and Citizen Kane. A list nobody, I think, would argue with, right? And then mine was a little bit on left field. Empire Strikes Back, Godfather 2, Braveheart, and I do like and see your Fat Man poster in the background there, which I love. And then Groundhog Day was on my list, and I rounded my top 5 films out with Good Will Hunting. So
Solid list.
solid lists, yeah. And we'll have to at some point, maybe in the next 5 years, we'll come up with our top 5 films at that time. But
Yeah, I think
Uh,
it's changed.
I think so. Well, I think Fat Man would be on there.
Yeah,
I
right.
think Fat
'Cause
Man might be on there.
obviously hadn't been released yet. So
All right. So before we get into the list, Mike, I've got a related to the holidays. I think is there something coming your way? It'll probably be at the doorstep tomorrow, maybe a little early,
mhm.
but we'll consider it for economic reasons, both a Thanksgiving, Christmas, and a New Year's gift.
Okay.
But I thought it was about time. And a friend of the show and a longtime friend of ours, Catherine, or Kat as we call her, had kind of brought this up to me, and I said, "Yeah, something I'd been thinking about, but I hadn't pulled the trigger on it." So, Mike, everybody's familiar with Funko Pops, right? I've got a
Of course.
whole, you know, crap load of them behind me, actually.
Yeah.
But you have never seen the Oh Brother
Okay.
Funko Pops. You can see a little shameless plug there for the Oh Brother podcast, right? It's got our
Okay.
Instagram handle on there.
That's pretty weird.
So Christmas came early. So I first want to introduce you to Funko Mike. Mike here is seen displaying the famous Oh Brother logo popcorn bucket. Okay.
And what do I have in my other hand?
And you've got your headphones, of course.
Oh, okay. I
You've got a
couldn't
pair
tell until you turned it to the side.
You've got a pair of headphones for your podcasting. All right. So
That's great.
there's Mike. And I figured, you like to wear some sort of neutral colors.
Yeah,
Perhaps
look
those might be sweatpants.
yeah, pretty much decked out.
I
except
thought I
for
had
my
the hair
pants.
down pretty well too. You're
Yeah.
always messing with the hair. So there's
Yeah.
Funko Mike. Okay. And these will be
Uh-huh.
on sale in the Oh Brother shop. So, don't worry, folks. And then, of course, to round out the duo, we've got Funko Dan. All right. And so Funko Dan also sporting the Oh Brother popcorn
But you got a mic.
bucket, but I've got the podcast microphone. I didn't want them to be because it would look like a boy band beside
Right,
each other, right?
right.
So there is
So
the Oh
Dan
Brother
found a
podcast.
Funko custom shop somewhere.
Yes, but I did it I went one step further, Mike. But I've got Funko Shadow.
That's what I was hoping. Shadow.
It's
Look at
Shadow.
her eyes like match.
Yeah, look at you see Shadow up over my shoulder here. There's Funko
Yep.
Shadow. Okay.
Matches perfect.
And then this was They were all out of the Funko Ahsokas, and this was the closest I could get, but there's Funko
Not
Ahsoka.
bad. Not too bad.
So anyway, so yeah, I sent a pair of those to you, so they'll be in the mail
Okay,
soon.
that's gonna be fun.
All right, Mike, let's get into this list here. Top 5 holiday films, Oh Brother style. You want to lead us off? You led us off when we did our top 5 films, so why don't you kick
Well,
us
should
off?
I defer to you since I went first last
Oh,
time?
okay, we
Although
can do that,
I
sure.
want to say that in that first show, Mike was just a blank screen. I was
Mhm.
not in front of the camera, had no intention of being in front of the camera, didn't want to be,
Yeah, that's
but
true.
we realized the show didn't work without it.
I wasn't either. Neither of us were on.
Oh, so it was a total
It
audio.
was a total audio. It's on our YouTube channel. It's on, you can get it on your
Okay.
favorite podcatcher. But yeah, we were not, neither of us had revealed ourselves at that point. But look at us now. We're Funko Pops. I mean, come on, it's
I know.
we've come
You've
a long
made
way,
it.
baby. So all right, I'll do the honors now.
Okay. Are
No
you
particular
going in
order.
order?
No,
Okay.
because I just didn't feel like I could do it with this
Okay.
list. I couldn't really do it.
I
Uh,
attempted it, but
nor did I want to spend the time. But maybe at the end, I can quickly point out my number one. But to lead off my list, Mike, is a great film by director Harold Ramis, which also was on my top 5 film list. And that, of course, and the holiday is in the title, which is Groundhog Day.
right.
Again, it's a little stretch for a
The
holiday,
stretch
but
of a bit
it's in the winter time. It conjures up that feeling of the holidays.
when Bill Murray and Andy McDowell are skating, they're dancing.
Right.
Looks like they're skating, they're moving so fluidly. That to me is Christmas.
And it's a great Ray Charles song that's playing
Oh, it's awesome.
during that sequence,
You
but
Don't Know Me.
this film, like, it's like a warm blanket, right?
Yeah.
And I had all this criteria on my top 5 film list that I had mentioned, watchability and all this sort of stuff, and this is one of those films, I've seen it so many times I can't count them, and I know it like the back of my hand. You and I could recite the dialogue word for word, and
Yeah.
couple of things I wanted to mention here. One of the standout moments, and there's too many to mention, but the great Andy McDowell, of course, and Bill Murray, and oh God, we talked about
Chris Elliott.
Chris Elliott. I always want to say Christopher Guest. It's not a funny moment in the movie because there is some drama in this film as well,
Absolutely.
and some of Bill Murray's best acting. And there's a sequence where, of course, he's reliving the same day over and over again, right? There's this character that he passes on the street every day, this old guy that's homeless, and he's,
Yes.
anyways, the guy, spoiler alert, the guy passes away. And so in one of the sequences, when he's reliving this moment, man dies in the hospital, and he goes to find him, and he pulls the curtain back. And the nurse behind him says, sometimes people just die. And Murray just looks at her and says, not today. And oh my God, it gets
I
right
have
there,
one coming up that's gonna be like that.
Really? Okay. So
Yeah.
there it is.
Now,
Groundhog
what
Day.
about a personal connection? Any personal connection to this?
To this one, not really that I could
Okay.
think of. No, I haven't met any of the
Right.
actors or anything like that. And nothing really gets conjured up to be honest. So no,
It's romantic, it's
it's got
tense,
everything.
it's
It's
got
got
everything.
everything. It
This is
really
one of those
does.
perfect films.
It is a perfect film.
Okay, mine number 5, and I'm cheating big time, but I don't care. My number 5 is The Godfather epic. It's Godfather 1 and 2
Mhm.
shot chronologically. So it doesn't bounce back and forth to Sicily, to the
New York,
States, to
yeah,
Sicily.
New
It
York in the
it
20s, whatever.
follows the chronological story of the film and right up through 3.
Mhm.
So, it also inserts all of the deleted scenes if you have the box set. So you see like a 6-hour cut of 1 and 3 or 1 and 2.
Right.
Now the Christmas angle is kinda like the Die Hard angle where Kay and Michael are shopping on Christmas Eve when the the
Oh,
Godfather gets gunned down. Remember that?
interesting connection.
And
Yes.
they also pick up Tom Hagen. He has what do they call them? Those
Is it a sled?
a sled
Yeah.
like from Rosebud from Citizen Kane.
Right,
It's
for
one of those.
Anthony or something, yeah.
They pick him up because he's shopping, and they hold him hostage, whatnot. So there's my Christmas angle to it.
Interesting.
It's also something I always watch around this time of year, November, December. I don't know
Right.
if the TV started that or if I just started it on my own, but and then the personal connection. Do you know what it is?
I do, and it's interesting because this was one of my honorable mentions was Godfather 3 because we were in the theater on Christmas Day
Christmas Day.
when that came out, and you mentioned watching this around this time every year. So Mike and I would do a Godfather marathon, and we would when I was eating meat, we would go to Chick-fil-A and we would get what we called the nugget feast. We'd get a platter of chicken nuggets. We'd
Yes.
go home and just watch the Godfather trilogy. And yeah, it became our own little,
And we watched it from
ritual.
start to finish. Unfortunately, the Epic was only available and it's still only available on VHS on
Mhm.
eBay.
Yeah.
But you will find The Godfather Epic on eBay. If you search, it was 20 bucks shipped. If you're a fan of The Godfather, love The Godfather, and have never seen the Epic, you owe it to yourself this Christmas to gift yourself that film.
So, okay. So that's where you say you're cheating a little bit because you're
Yeah,
bringing in
because
the
it's
whole,
really
yeah,
3 films that have made into one long 9-hour film.
right.
There's holiday stuff in it, plus there's that personal connection where we were in the theater, packed house.
Packed
We were in
house.
the back row,
Yeah.
and when Fredo comes on the scene, which isn't in the new cut, which we don't recommend,
Right.
the coda,
Dakota. Yeah.
when Fredo comes on the screen, you and I weren't sitting next to each other, but we looked at each other and made eye contact with this big smile.
Yeah. A
It's
little.
like, "Merry Christmas to us."
Exactly, yeah, for sure. Well, it's again, it was on my alternate list, so I almost
Yeah,
went there. I love that you point out that, because I thought it was gonna be The Godfather 3 Christmas release connection, but to point out the shopping and that's a good I
correct.
like that. I had
Yeah.
forgot to hold up Groundhog Day, which,
Oh,
by
there it
the
is.
way, if the film is in my physical collection, that says something because I don't have very many
Correct.
physical discs, so that tells you something. Alright,
And
so
I
my
know
sec
you have that digitally on 4K.
I do. I do. So again, mine are in no particular order, but I would be remiss if I didn't list this film, a film directed by the late great Bob Clark, who also brought us Black Christmas. There's another tie into
Okay.
the holidays. We
Okay.
just came off of Halloween Fest here at the Old Brother Podcast. Ralphie in A Christmas Story. I mean, the TBS marathon, I can't tell you, and I see it. Mike's got it behind
Yeah.
him there on his shelf. I couldn't tell you how many times I've seen this film. I've met Peter Billingsley. I had him autograph this VHS, kids, the
That's how old
VHS.
it was.
And this thing has maybe been played a couple of times. It's in mint condition, but again, it's just it's become a tradition. Certainly, when TBS started playing the 24-hour marathon.
I would
Uh,
walk by you at that
mhm.
time, and it was constantly on your TV.
Yes, yeah,
Like,
every
and
year.
I think I watched it for the first time all the way through last year
Oh, really?
at Christmas time when we were doing Christmas movies. I think that was the first time I ever watched it
It's
top to bottom.
It's a great film, and there's lines like because it's based on a short story, right? "In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash"
Yes.
by Gene Shepherd, and who's in the film, actually. He has a little brief cameo in that film. But there's one line where he reads, "Never had words flowed from my penny pencil with such feverish fluidity." I mean, dialogue and lines like that are just so brilliant. My favorite in that movie is when Ralphie unfortunately discovers the commodification of Christmas, where he's got this little orphan Annie decoder ring and he's listening to this radio program, which is big back at that time that the
Right.
movie is set in. And he
Right.
finds out it's just a commercial for Ovaltine that they're selling. And he's like,
Yeah.
Ovaltine? What the hell is this? And
Yeah.
so, and again, of course, my personal connection having met Ralphie. So,
Correct. And there's gotta be a ton of people that love that film
oh,
and look
sure.
at it every year like we
Sure.
do.
Yeah.
So I'm up.
What do we got?
We've got none
Oh,
other
Fat
than
Man.
the
Fat Man.
aforementioned, and I've got the
Love it.
poster to reinforce it. It's a modern day telling of Kris Kringle. Like, what if Kris Kringle were in today's society, played by Mel Gibson perfectly? Talk about genre specific. This one's a tough one. It's a holiday film, it's an action film, it's a shoot 'em up film, it's everything.
Yeah.
Everything you want in a great film. And obviously the personal connection. We've had the directors, Ian and Esham Nelms on the show twice.
Yep.
We've had the producer, Michelle Lang, Johnny Durango, the cinematographer, all fantastic people. Go back and check those interviews out.
Mhm.
But this is only one of their several masterpieces, and I'm sure there's more to come.
And that was one of those COVID impacted films, by the way, that it didn't
Yes.
really get the red carpet treatment and the whole big release that it should have got.
And I wanted to point out before we go further is I have a distraction to my right. She's
Yeah,
now gone.
that Fat Man poster looked
Yeah.
fantastic.
So we get a hold of the Nelms brothers through Twitter, of all things. I send
Right.
them a note, Ian, a note, and they met with us December 22nd.
Yes.
I mean, who's that generous in
Yeah.
Hollywood? No one except them.
Right.
So I just wanted to point that out because it was really
And that was 2020. That was
that
one
was
of our
2020. It was
that was one
early.
one of our first, interviews too that we had done.
Right. I think it was our
And
second interview. We interviewed them again in a
Mhm.
much better interview, I think, because we our skills got better.
Sure, I agree. And it's interesting that you bring this up too, that interview with the Nelms. It's been blowing up on our audio podcast.
Oh, good.
Every single day, people are downloading this interview. It's I don't know why it's just all of a sudden started to kick off again. So
It's a lot of
um
fun. Great guys. The
yeah,
whole
great guys.
team. We've
Very
met
talented
actors that
filmmakers.
work with them.
Right.
Their whole team is just professional,
Yeah.
and this should be on my list.
Hey everyone, if you love movies, hit that subscribe button and join us for more amazing episodes on the Oh Brother podcast.
Don't miss out.
And don't forget to leave a comment and share with your friends. All right, so I'm going to skip down to my number 3, right?
Okay.
And I say skipping down because I had my original third slot. There's like 4 movies written. I couldn't decide, so I skipped that, I scratched it, and I went to this next one. So this next one, I'm gonna do you one better, Mike, is I'm
Okay.
gonna also go with Fat Man,
Wow.
and this is the autographed edition, my friend.
Which I have, but I keep it under lock and
There's
key.
Michelle, and we got Johnny and the boys. So, but we won't drag this out anymore about the Fat Man. But no surprise that it's on both of our lists, quite frankly.
Tell just one piece of it, the story where Mel Gibson goes to give a speech to the elves.
Yeah,
They're
there's this
they're
great.
working in a government plant because they don't have the funds to make Christmas happen. Talk about that scene.
Yeah, you're gonna test me with the dialogue,
No,
recalling the dial.
no,
Oh,
just
okay.
the mood of it.
Well, again, this is where you said you've got everything in this film, right? You've got
Mhm.
action, you've got comedy, you've got drama, you got some romance in there. But the secrets you're talking about, he's kind of up on this elevated platform and he's, looking down over the workers,
Yeah.
the elves, and he's given this really impassioned speech. And I mean, this is Mel Gibson at his best, honestly, in this moment, delivering
Played for drama,
played
not
for
for
drama.
laughs.
Right.
It could have gone the other way. A lot of issues in the film, where's Santa's sleigh? We don't see it. That's better. The
Correct.
fact that he has reindeer and he has a reindeer injury, but we don't see the reindeer. The
Hmm.
the Nelms brothers were so clever, and again, Ian spent 15 years writing this. So he
Mhm.
spent an awful long time writing it, and it comes out on the screen. It's just
There
fantastic.
there's so many great sequences in it. Chance Hurstfield was in it, Walton Goggins, of course,
Right.
Marianne Jean-Baptiste, and their chemistry together, her and Mel Gibson, is just fantastic in that film. But I love this sequence in the film that we talked in the Nelms about, which is this kind of OK Corral shootout between
Yes.
Walton Goggins' character and Fat Man and Mel
I
Gibson.
called it High Noon.
High Noon,
Yeah.
absolutely, and it is just absolutely brilliant filmmaking all around by everybody, the acting, the directing, Johnny cinematography. It's gorgeous. So we say this every year, I think, but if you haven't seen this film yet,
Yeah.
get your hands on this film. It's a delight for sure. All
And
right, Mike,
you
back to
can
you.
buy it I think less than $15 on Amazon, which is a steal.
It may not come autographed, but still.
No,
All right,
but
what you got next?
how about another Bill Murray
Oh,
showing up twice?
Scrooged.
Scrooged, which is basically Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol
Mhm.
in modern day. And again, if Bill Murray doesn't knock it out of the park for you with Groundhog Day, then he will with this, because he plays the perfect character that has to visit all the ghosts of Christmas past, Christmas future, and present. My
Right.
favorite line in the film, probably the most famous line in the Dickens play, which is Scrooge says to somebody says something, "Why don't you get in the Christmas spirit?" And what does Scrooge say? "Bah humbug."
Mhm.
Well, the way they played it out, Bill Murray's talking to Karen Allen from Indiana Jones fame, who's in the film.
It's great.
And the two of them are talking, and she says something to the effect of, "Come on, get in the spirit." And he just turns, "Bah humbug." And he says it in a way that's so unique and so different.
Mhm.
It reminds me of the line you brought up in Groundhog Day that he's delivered so perfectly. I don't
Yeah.
think anyone, and the connection for me, I was in the theater, the AMC in Orlando, not the Disney
Mm.
AMC, the one that used to be on Route 50. I
Right.
was in the theater. This was at a time where I think only you and I stayed for the end credits. Nobody everybody else would bail. So I was
Mhm.
by myself. You weren't with me.
Right, I remember
So
this.
I'm watching it, and then Bill Murray breaks the fourth screen, which everybody missed. And he starts singing with the crowd. "Everyone on the left, okay, put the popcorn down on the right." And it's just a fun way to end the movie. And so many people missed it.
Only the sexy people.
Yeah, all the men, well, all the women. He just,
Mhm.
goes on, and it's fun. And it was unique at the time. Nobody broke the fourth wall in a movie,
Mhm.
unless it was a intricate part.
Ferris Bueller might have beat him out,
Yeah, definitely. Well,
possibly,
yeah, yeah,
I think Ferris Bueller would have been
yeah,
ahead of.
Ferris Bueller is ultimate,
Yeah,
that's
right,
the
right,
whole thing. He's,
exactly.
constantly winking at the
And that was Scrooge
camera.
was in 1988, which was 5 years before Groundhog Day, and those characters in the beginning have a lot in common, those 2 characters that Bill
Yeah,
Murray plays. So if you think about it, and that's you didn't mention, but that's a Richard Donner film, Scrooge, and
correct,
got this
correct.
great opening with the sort of almost like a Die Hard sort of opening with Lee Majors, right?
Yes,
Is in
yes.
this little sequence in the
And
opening.
he's on skis with, like, a semi-automatic
Right,
handgun trying to save
right.
Christmas or whatever. It was
Yeah,
great.
because Murray's character is a president of a television company, and
That's right.
he's just ruthless. And I love this sequence where he's going through with his administrative secretary there about gifts for everybody on his list, and he's like, "Towel, give him a
Yeah,
towel. VHS player, give him a towel." And then she goes, "Okay, your brother, towel."
towel. So
It's
great.
so
You know who
good.
else is great in it is John Forsythe as
He is
his
great.
mentor.
And Robert Mitchum is great in it as
Yeah.
well. Now, I was surprised. I know I had this disc physically, but I couldn't find it. I don't know what I did with it, but because I had a special edition of it. But this one would seem like a no-brainer to be on the list, quite frankly, going back 1 year to 1987. And of course, that is the great Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with Steve Martin. Yeah, there you go. Steve
I'll
Martin and John
show it.
Candy. Yeah, Mike's got it. Is that just a
It's
slipcover?
it's a steel book.
It is a steel book.
Yeah. I have
Ooh,
4 versions of this.
that's beautiful. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and again, there's not much. John Hughes, we just mentioned him, but John Hughes, there's nothing much to say. This is another perfect movie. John
Perfect.
Candy's greatest performance,
Yep.
without question. You're sporting the poster behind you too, by the way,
Exactly. I
which
I I
is
gave
great.
away 2 of my films.
Hmm.
But the other thing my personal connection is, and you helped me with this is
Yes.
when I was acting in Orlando,
Hmm.
and I you and I sat and watched the monologue that Steve Martin gives in the hotel room where he just goes off on John Candy. "You're no saint. You got a free cab, you got a free ride." You and I meticulously paused, wrote out that entire script, and I got it down to a 1-minute monologue that I probably auditioned 15 times,
Hmm.
and I think I was picked all 15 times for the play.
Hmm. It's a
So
great, yeah, and that's just one sequence. This is another film that has so many different beats, so many emotional beats in the film that it's hard to pick out any one
right.
best scene. I think it really for me is in some ways it almost is the dramatic sequences at least as much, if not more than the
Yeah,
comedy in this, because it's so heartfelt. It is so heartfelt, but
and how
there's
perfect.
the little moments like we're in the diner, you and I always talk about, clearly Steve Martin's about to give him the brush off. He's like,
Yep.
this has been great, but I think would be better if we just kind of went our separate ways. And
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Candy really
Yeah.
wants this.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
no, I
yeah.
get it. Yep.
It's just easier if we just go. I thought you were
Yeah,
still,
okay. Yeah, well,
yeah.
you know what?
But
I got some
I mean,
money
it's
here.
nothing.
Part of this is yours. Take it.
No, really, I
No, no,
couldn't
I
possibly.
insist. Please take it. I
Nah,
insist.
Adele, really, it's
Look,
okay.
you know what? Buy your kids a chocolate Easter bunny, okay? But take it or just
Listen,
leave it. Just leave
maybe
it.
maybe I'll see you again sometime.
Yeah, I'm sure I will. Bye.
Yeah,
That was a
sure you
rough,
will.
rough
That was very
version.
rough. Yeah, we haven't watched it yet this year, but, all right, so Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is a great one. So
Brilliant
back
film.
to you. I don't know, you just gotta hold it up and say the same thing?
It's not
I
on
did
your
not. Okay,
list.
Mike coming with a classic, It's a Wonderful Life, folks.
My love of black and white noir films, although this is no way a noir film. I love Jimmy Stewart. I love Donna Reed. Again, another perfect film from anxiety to anger to, the 5 stages of grief are all in here.
Mhm.
And Jimmy Stewart decides he's going to kill himself. And before he can kill himself, an angel comes down to stop him because he says, "I wish I was never born."
Mhm.
Well, let's take a look at your life. And he sees the impact he has on all these people.
Yeah.
And it's just Frank Capra
Hey, Frank Capra, yeah.
at his finest. And my personal connection is a weird one. Back a few years ago when the rights were up, anybody could have acquired the rights. And
Mike owns It's a
I
Wonderful
own the
Life?
rights. That's the big no. NBC acquired the rights to It's a Wonderful Life. And their decision, while they had it in their possession, they no longer have it, was to only show the film once a year on Christmas Eve. So if you wanted to see It's a Wonderful Life,
Mhm.
back then you had to watch NBC on Christmas Eve. Now, of course, DVDs and VHS were right around the corner.
Right.
It became a stupid deal for NBC and they let the rights go.
Must-see TV.
Yeah. And I know the ratings were, this is back when ratings meant something. Ratings were through the roof that night. I was watching it.
Every
So,
every time a bell rings,
right.
an
An
angel
angel
gets its
gets his
wings.
wings.
Yeah, that's a great one, and then that sequence with, "Mary, what do you want, Mary? You want me to I'll lasso the moon, and I'll bring it down and put it in my pocket," which
Exactly.
isn't that what Chris Farley ends up kind of saying in one of his
Yeah, he's kinda
Matt
doing
Foley bits?
yeah, he's
You
kinda
know?
doing the Jimmy
It is
Stewart
a little
thing.
Jimmy Stewart,
"I'll get it, I'll lasso it, I'll wrap it around the."
"I'll put it in my pocket." Yeah. Okay, so this is
So you got the
my
finale
this
here.
is the finale, and it's interesting because, Mike, I was all over the place trying to settle on a fifth. This is gonna be an interesting see, sometimes we come together. It's very interesting. You'd think we were related. So it came down to this, Mike. It came down to 2 films. One was a film that was filmed in New England, starring Richard Dreyfuss, Holly Hunter, the
I
late
know.
great Jenna Rollins, and Danny Aiello, one of my favorite all-time actors. And it's a movie called Once Around. It came out in 1991. Go and watch Siskel and Ebert's review of this film when it came out. They both give it an unbelievably glowing review. They called it the best film so far of that year. But it didn't make it because although it's set not entirely in the winter time, New England in the winter.
Yes.
Anyways, I went away from that and I said, looking on my list, it was mostly 80s, 90s, except for Fat Man, which was 2020. So, like you, I settled on a more classic holiday film, and I went with the 1954 classic White Christmas. I love this film. It's just classic, right? It was the world was a little simpler back then in some
Yeah.
ways, I suppose, and others maybe not. A great sequence in the film that I love is this musical number that the four of them do singing this song Snow, and
Yeah.
they're on a train, and it's just fantastic.
It
Snow, snow, snow. It's really
That
good.
could easily, like, we could have agreed to 5 films that were perfect and throw them out to make our job a little bit harder to dig
Yeah,
for some of the nuggets that we both know
right.
exist.
Yeah.
But how can how can I argue that film?
Well, and it's Michael Curtis. He did Casablanca. I mean, come
Yeah,
on.
Irving
So
Berlin. I
Irving
mean,
Berlin. Yeah.
just
So
everything is
so it's
perfect
interesting.
about
It's a Wonderful Life. I've got White Christmas. That was a nice
right. We
capping off.
both that was really our only classic. Now people will say Groundhog Day and Scrooged are old, but there's still modern sensibility there.
Yeah.
And I wanted something this century that which is, what led to kind of the Fat Man pick, but we both had it.
Yeah.
So,
We did.
and if
We
you
did.
noticed my posters, of course, I gave away 2, Planes, Trains, and Fat Man, and then Beetlejuice is in the middle just to cover Halloween.
That's a great poster. I love that. Did you just get
Yeah.
that one?
Yeah, that's a new one.
That's a good pickup. Well, what do you say, Mike? Should we pack up the troop here and head on out?
I love the Funko Dan and Mike.
And these will be prominently displayed where that Christmas Classics box set is behind me.
Yeah,
But
I'll have
I
to
want to.
find a permanent spot, maybe over by the Bond box that doesn't belong.
Oh yeah, maybe as long as you can see them. But yeah, they should be there any day now. And well, there you go, folks. The top 5 holiday film episode by the O Brother Podcast. It's a nice trip back down memory lane from our very first episode in May of 2020. And hopefully that's a little bit of an enjoyable conversation for you. So let us know, what are your top 5
Right.
holiday films?
What
What
did
are
we
some of the
miss?
what did we
What did
miss?
we
I mean,
miss?
again, just look at the ones that I crossed out that I didn't even mention. You had a handful
I
there
had
too that
Christmas
didn't make it.
Vacation early on. That was one of the
Yeah.
first ones I picked up.
There's so many, and I would wonder, like Die Hard, I would wonder, from the viewers and listeners, like, what are some of those films where there would be a debate about, is this a holiday film? Is it not? But to you, it's one like Mike and I with The Godfather 3 in particular, not to mention the trilogy that we would watch around every Thanksgiving time.
Correct. Now, I don't know about you, but I have these 5 or 6 stacked beside me, and they're coming with me into my room because I will be watching all of them in the next
Mhm.
month.
Well, I have them queued up in my digital library, of course, but most of them made my physical collection still. So I don't know what
Which
happened with
for you,
Planes,
that's a
Trains.
big deal. If you
It's a
get the
big deal.
physical like I just got the new Halloween trilogy, which I already had in Steelbook, but I got Walmart had another one go on sale. Because I
Mhm.
have to own every copy of that stupid film, I
Right.
bought it. I luckily got it on eBay for $20 cheaper, so
Well, we want to hear from you guys. You've heard enough from us. Let's hear from you. What are some of your favorite holiday films? Drop some comments on the video here and let us
and do
know.
you dislike any of ours? Do you like, if you think I'm an idiot for putting Godfather on there, call us out.
I don't know. I don't think that, but I've met a lot of people along the way that are not huge fans of Groundhog Day. That's a pretty divisive film.
Wow,
Like people either love it or they hate it. That's been my
really?
experience. Yeah, it's been my experience with it because
Never heard anyone say they hated it.
yeah, I don't think it's their brand of humor. I've gotten that from more than one person over the years. But all right, well, there you go, folks. Top 5 holiday films. That's going to do it for another episode of the Oh Brother Podcast. Been your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith. And we will see you next time.
Happy holidays, everyone.